Hello students, welcome to my channel Learning History Made Easy. In today's video, we will be seeing about the Rig Vedic or Early Vedic period. Before going into the video, if anyone is seeing the channel for the first time or if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe and share it with your friends. Also, click the bell button to receive notifications whenever I upload new videos. So without wasting time, let us get into today's video. So as I told to you, today's video is about Rig Vedic or Early Vedic period. So the video is about Rig Vedic or Early Vedic period. The Rig Veda is the only source to give us an idea of the geographical expanse of the early Vedic period. So if we want to know about the early Vedic period, the geographical expanse, the only source which gives us information is the Rig Veda. When the early Rigvedic hymns were written, so if you see the Rigvedic hymns, when they were written, the focus of Aryan culture was a region between Yamuna and Satluj. Okay, and also along the upper course of the river Saraswati, its upper course. These two areas were given focus when the Rigvedic hymns were written. So when the early Rigvedic hymns were written, the focus of Aryan culture, so if you see in the hymns, the focus of Aryan culture, we mainly see focused in the regions between Yamuna and Satluj and along the upper course of river Saraswati. The geographical area eventually occupied by the Rigvedic tribes is clearly indicated by the mention of certain rivers. So if you see the Rigvedic tribes or the area which is occupied by the Rigvedic tribes, it is clearly indicated by the mention of certain rivers or certain mountain localities, then tribes, kingdoms, etc. Which permit easy identification. So regarding Rigvedic tribes, when you read, you can see the names of certain rivers, certain mountain localities, then certain tribes, certain kingdoms, etc. And all these help it makes it easy to identify the Rigvedic tribes. Then the Rigvedic Aryans, if you see the Rigvedic Aryans, the Rigvedic Aryans were not acquainted with sea or oceans. Okay, they were not much acquainted with sea or oceans. But there is a mention of the word Samudra in Rigveda. So if you see in Rigveda, there is the mention of the word Samudra. But here the word Samudra probably meant only a collection of water. Okay, it probably meant a collection of water but not sea during this period. That is why it is said that the Rigvedic Aryans were not acquainted with sea or oceans. Then there is a mention of the Himalayas, the Himalaya or the Himavantha mountains. Himalaya or Himavantha mountains. This was well known in the Rigvedic time. It was well known to the Rigvedic sages. Although they were not much acquainted with sea or ocean, they knew about the Himalayas or the Himavantha mountains. Next, we will see about the evolution of social institutions. Regarding social institution, the basic unit, okay, if you see the basic unit was probably the patriarchal family. Patriarchal family was the basic unit. And people gave their loyalty, their primary loyalty. The primary loyalty of the people was towards the tribe. Okay, and this tribe was called as Jana. Okay, so the basic unit was a patriarchal family, and the people gave their primary loyalty to the tribe, and the tribe was called as Jana. So that is the first point regarding the social institution. Now here we can see tribe was given loyalty and tribe was called as Jana. Now this tribe was split into Vish, okay, Vish, or it is the clan. Okay, tribe was split into Vish or clan, and it's mentioned in the Rig Veda. Now this Vish or clan was divided into grama. Grama, or it was a smaller unit, smaller tribal unit. Okay, the Vish was divided into grama, which was a smaller tribal unit, and this was meant for fighting. The tribal units were usually fighting with each other. When grama clashed, then when this fight happened in the grama clashed with one another, it was called or it caused samgram or war. Okay, samgram or war. When the gramas clashed, it caused samgram or war. The term for family, so this was a basic division, tribe, Jana. Jana split into Vish clan. That was split into grama, which was a smaller unit. They were fighting with each other. When they fought, it became samgram or war. So this was the basic division. Now next is the term for family. So if you see the family, the term for family is kula. That is mentioned in the Rig Veda. It seems that family in the early Rigvedic phase was, so if you see in the early Rigvedic phase, family is indicated by the term Griha. The term was for family was Griha in the early Rigvedic phase, which frequently occurs in this text. And the master, okay, the master of the house or the master of the Griha was called as grihapati. Grihapati. Family was Griha, master was grihapati. Great affection and respect were generally shown towards guests. So guests were treated with great respect, and guest was called as athithi. Athithi. Okay. So they were given great respect. So this was about the social institution during the Rigvedic or early Vedic period. Now just let us go through the points which we have studied till now. Rig Vedic or early Vedic period. The Rig Veda is the only source to give us an idea of the geographical expanse of the early Vedic period. When the early Rigvedic hymns were written, the focus of Aryan culture was a region between the Yamuna and Sutlej and along the upper course of river Saraswati. The geographical area eventually occupied by the Rigvedic tribes is clearly indicated by the mention of certain rivers, mountain localities, tribes and kingdoms which permit easy identification. The Rigvedic Aryans were not acquainted with the seas or oceans. Rig Veda mentions the word Samudra, which probably meant only a collection of water and not sea in this period. The Himalaya or the Himavantha mountain are well known to the Rigvedic sages. Evolution of social institution. The basic social unit was probably the patriarchal family. People gave their primary loyalty to the tribe which was called Jana. The Jana was split into Vish clan and it's mentioned in the Rig Veda. The Vish was divided into grama and smaller tribal units meant for fighting. When the gramas clashed with one another, it caused samgram or war. The term for family, kula, is mentioned rarely in the Rig Veda. It seemed that family in early Vedic phase was indicated by the term Griha, which frequently occurs in this text. The master of the house was called Grihapati. Great affection and respect was generally shown towards guest called as Atithi. Now let us move on to the next topic. The next topic is evolution of political institution. Political institution. So we saw about social institution. So next is political institution. The early Vedic political institutions were characterized by elements commonly associated with tribal polity. So basically it was a kind of tribal polity. So we already said that family was the basic unit. Okay, basic unit was the family, basic unit of political organization, and this family was headed by grihapati, or we can say kulapati or grihapati. The next unit was, after family, the next unit was grama or village. Grama or village was the next unit, and it was headed by gramani. The head of grama was gramani. Then there was the group of which was a group of villages. Group of villages was Vis, and this group of villages was headed by Vispati. Okay, Vispati. And the highest unit we already studied, Jana. Jana was the tribe. Jana was the tribe, highest unit. It consisted of group of Vis. Okay, and this was headed by the tribal chief. The tribal chief. Okay, so this was the political institution. So there was a Jana or tribe, and it was headed by the tribal chief. Then the Jana or tribe was divided into different group of villages called as Vis, headed by Vispati. Then this Vis was divided into individual gramas or villages headed by Gramani. Then in Grama there was smaller units called as family. That was a basic unit. Head of the family was Grihapati. So this was the political institution, political division during that time. And the administrative machineries of the Aryans in the Rig Vedic period functioned with the tribal chief. So basic administration happened with the tribal chief. Okay, administration happened with the tribal chief, and for a successful leadership in the war at center. And this chief was called as Rajan. Okay, so we have Rajan, head of the tribe. Then we have Vispati, head of the group of villages or Vis. Then we have Gramani, head of village or Grama. Then we have Grihapati, who is the head of the family. So this was how the political institution happened during the early Vedic period. And it seems that in Rig Vedic period, king's post became hereditary. The post of king was hereditary. Okay, so the king's post was hereditary. However, the Rajan was a kind of chief. So here the king, or we can say Rajan, he was a kind of tribal chief that we have already discussed. He was a kind of tribal chief, and he did not exercise unlimited power. He did not have no unlimited power. Okay, he did not have unlimited power. He was not having unlimited power, and having to reckon with the tribal organization. He had to reckon with the tribal organization. The king or the Rajan, he was called the protector of the tribe. Okay, the king or the Rajan was the protector of the tribe. And as a protector of the tribe, he had the duty to protect the cattle, the people, and he had to fight war. So all these kind of things, fighting war, offering prayers to God on the behalf of the people, all these things was the duty of the tribal chief or the Rajan. Okay, so he was the protector. Several tribes or clan-based assemblies were there. So here, several tribe or clan-based assemblies. There were different kind of clan-based assemblies during this time, and among them, two important was Sabha and Samiti. Sabha, Samiti, many were there, Vidata, Gana. So many tribal or clan-based assemblies were there. They exercised deliberative military and religious functions. So these clan-based assemblies had they had military and religious functions. The Vidata was an assembly in which both men and women participated. So if we see Vidata, here both men and women were allowed to participate in this assembly. Both men and women participated, and it functioned as a center for settling disputes. So for example, if disputes were there, disputes were settled or redistribution and provided a place for performing sacrifice. So all these were done in the assemblies called as Vidata. So in Vidata, both men and women participated. It functioned as a center for settling disputes, redistribution, and provided a place for performing sacrifice. Now if we see Sabha, the Sabha was a body of elders and constituted mainly of the Brahmanas and the elite class. Okay, Brahmanas or the elite class were the members of the Sabha. They were body of elders. The speaker of the Sabha was called as Sabha-Pati. Okay, the speaker of the Sabha was called as Sabha-Pati and the members were called as Sabhya. The members of the Sabha were called as Sabhya. So for a clear understanding, I will write it once more. So we have clan-based assemblies. Some examples of clan-based assemblies were the Sabha, Samiti, Vidata, Gana, etc. So first we learned about Vidata, in which both men and women participated. Men and women participated in the Vidata, and it functioned as a place for settling disputes, and also a place for performing sacrifices. Okay, so that was the Vidata. Now then we moved on to Sabha, which was the body of elders, and it mainly constituted the Brahmanas and the elite class. Okay, and the speaker of the Sabha was called as Sabha-Pati. Sabha-Pati was the speaker of the Sabha and the members were called as Sabhya. Sabhya were the members and Sabha-Pati was the speaker. Now the Samiti, next group, Samiti was more like a folk assembly, or like in the nature of a folk assembly. In which the entire population could participate. See, so here entire population could participate in the Samiti. And the members of Samiti was called as Vishah. So here the members of the Samiti were called as Vishah. Sabha members Sabhya, Samiti members Vishah. Okay, they were called as Vishah members. And the most important function of the Samiti was election of king. The election of king was the most important function of Samiti. The Sabha was a selected body which was more like an advisory council. So if you see, Sabha is a selected body because it is the body of elders, only some group of people can join. So it was a selected body like an advisory council. King was assisted by a few functionalities in the day. Now these were the important clan-based assemblies, Sabha, Samiti, Vidata and Gana. So I hope you have understood that. Now the next is, we are going to learn about the people who helped the king in administration. So king was helped by a few functionalities in the day-to-day administration. And the most important person who helped the king was Purohita. Then there was another person who helped the king, Senani. Senani was a head of army. Head of the army. Purohita, we know, we will be mainly dealing with religious functions. Senani was a head of the army. But the Rig Veda did not mention any officer for administration of justice and collection of taxes. Then there are officers like spies were appointed. They were to keep an eye on the anti-social activities. So spies were appointed to keep an eye on the anti-social activities. So to help the king, Purohita was there, Senani was there, spies were there to keep an eye on the anti-social activities. The king did not maintain any standing army. So there was no standing army as such. King did not maintain any standing army. But in times of war, he mustered a militia whose military function was performed by various tribal groups. So when a need comes, what the king did was, he mustered a militia whose military functions were performed by various tribal groups. Okay, there were various tribal groups who performed the functions during such times, and these tribal groups were called as Vrata, Gana, Grama, etc. So they functioned as the military during the time of need. So that was how the king performed his duties. Now just let us go through the points which we have studied till now. Evolution of political institutions. Early Vedic political institutions were characterized by elements commonly associated with a tribal polity. The family or kula was a basic unit of political organization headed by kulapa or grihapati. The next unit, grama or village, was headed by gramani. The vis or a group of villagers was headed by Vispati. The highest unit, jana or tribe, consisted of a group of vis headed by the tribal chief. The administrative machinery of the Aryans in the Rig Vedic period functioned with the tribal chief for his successful leadership in war at the center. He was called Rajan. It seems that in the Rig Vedic period the king's post had become hereditary. However, the Rajan was a kind of chief and did not exercise unlimited power, having to reckon with the tribal organizations. The king was called the protector of his tribe, as he protected its cattle, fought its war, and offered prayers to God on its behalf. Several tribal or the clan-based assemblies such as the Sabha, Samiti, Vidata, Gana are mentioned in the Rig Veda. They exercised deliberative military and religious functions. The Vidata was an assembly in which both men and women participated. It functioned as a center for settling disputes, redistribution, and provided a place for performing sacrifice. The Sabha was a body of elders and constituted mainly of the Brahmanas and the elite. The speaker of Sabha was called Sabha-Pati and its members Sabhya. The Samiti was more in the nature of a folk assembly in which the entire population could participate. Members of the Samiti was called Vishah. The most important function of Samiti was election of the king. The Sabha was selected body which was more like an advisory council. The king was assisted by a few functionalities in the day-to-day administration. The most important of these seems to have been the Purohita. Senani was the head of the army. The Rig Veda does not mention any officer for administering justice and collection of taxes. Spies were employed to keep an eye on the anti-social activities. The king did not maintain any standing army, but in times of war, he mustered a militia whose military functions were performed by various tribal groups called Vrata, Gana, Grama, Sarda. It was a tribal system of government in which military element was strong. So now let us move on to the next topic, that is social life. Social life. The Aryans in India had taken to settle life so that families resided in a fixed dwelling houses of a primitive type. So Aryans in India, they were mainly dealing a settled life. So that families resided in a fixed dwelling houses of a primitive type, and the houses were made of wood and bamboo. Houses during that time was made of wood and bamboo. Vegetarian and non-vegetarian food were taken. If you consider food, vegetarian and non-vegetarian food was taken during that time. Wheat and barley. Wheat and barley were probably the principal food grains, and it was the main food grains, and rice was introduced later. So main was wheat and barley, and rice was introduced later. They also used milk and milk products like milk, butter, ghee, curd. All these things were used by them. And they also used some kind of drinks called as soma. Soma, which was an accelerating juice of a hill plant. It was a kind of intoxicating drink, and the Soma, the use of Soma was restricted only during the religious ceremonies. And there was also one more drink called as Sura. This was also a mild intoxicating drink. So two intoxicating drinks were used. One was Soma and one was Sura. So these were the two intoxicating drinks used during that time. Now if we see about their dressing style, particular attention was paid to dress and ornaments. So the Vedic time, the Vedic costume, if you see, the Vedic costume have consisted of three parts. Okay, the Vedic costume consisted of three parts. That is, one is nivi, that is an undergarment type of a costume, that is nivi. Then there is a garment called as vasa, and then there is a mantle styled adhivasa. Okay, adhivasa. Okay, so here this also was a kind of garment, and this was something like a mantle styled adhivasa. So nivi, vasa, adhivasa. So these were the kind of costumes used during that time, and mainly the materials used were cotton or wool. Cotton or wool were the main materials used. And if you see the type of ornaments which they wore, gold ornaments as well as floral ornaments. It is ornaments made of flowers. So gold ornaments and floral wreaths were commonly used, especially during festive occasions. And hair, if you see their hairstyle, usually it was long. Hair was worn long and combed. And the favorite amusements for time pass, the favorite amusement was more virile classes, or if you see the richer classes, they had dance, then hunting, then racing. So all these were the favorite amusements, especially chariot racing and dicing. All these were popular amusements. Other than that, music also was there, that is vocal music and instrumental music. Vocal as well as instrumental music was known, and the Vedic Aryans played. So if you see the instruments, there was veena, flute, harp, all these, and to the accompaniment of drums and cymbals, that is kind of bronze plate like things. So all these were the important instruments used during that time. So these were about their social life. So just let us go through the points. Social life. The Aryans in India had taken to settle life so that the families resided in a fixed dwelling houses of a primitive type made of wood and bamboo. Vegetarian and non-vegetarian food were taken. Wheat and barley were probably the principal food grains, and rice was introduced later. They used milk, butter, ghee and curd. Drinks included Soma, which was an accelerating juice of a hill plant. The use of Soma was restricted to religious ceremonies, and Sura was also a mild intoxicating drink used. Particular attention was paid to dress and ornaments. The Vedic costume seems to have consisted of three parts: an undergarment style nivi, a garment called Vasa or Parichana, and a mantle style Adhivasa-atka-drapi. The clothes were made of cotton or wool. The use of gold ornaments and of floral wreaths was common, especially on festive occasions. Hair was worn long and combed. The favorite amusement of the more virile classes were war, dance, hunting and racing. The chariot racing and dicing was popular. Music, both vocal and instrumental, was well known. The Vedic Aryans played on the veena, flute and on the harp to the accompaniment of drums and cymbals. So all these were some of the points regarding early Vedic or Rig Vedic period. More points are there to come regarding their religion and other things. So that I'll be explaining in the coming videos. So if you have any doubt regarding this video, please do ask in the comment section. And also don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Your likes and shares will be of a great encouragement for me to make more and more videos. So I hope to see you all soon in the coming video. Thank you for watching.